I had only lived in Barkwood Estates for 3 days when I met her, Karen Whitmore, self-appointed dictator of the Homeowners Association. She looked like the prototype: bleach blonde bob, pastel cardigan, clipboard fused to her hand like a medieval weapon of bureaucracy. She appeared on my porch at exactly 8:01 a.m., tapping her pen like a judge about to pass sentence. "Hi, I'm Karen, president of the HOA," she announced with a smile so tight it could snap steel. I couldn't help but notice. Barking. I stared at her, half awake and in pajama pants featuring tacos and avocados. "Barking?" I echoed. "Yes," she sniffed. At precisely 7:43 a.m., a dog barked. Repeatedly. "That would be Max," I said, stepping aside to reveal a majestic golden retriever seated politely inside. His tail wagged like clockwork, and he tilted his head at Karen as if already assessing her character. Spoiler, he didn't like her. Karen narrowed her eyes. "We have very strict rules about animals in Barkwood. Only dogs under 25 pounds are allowed." Yours looks excessive. Max let out a single, deliberate woof, as if on cue. Karen flinched like she'd been hit by a wave of dirty laundry. "I'll need to see his registration and papers immediately," she snapped. I raised a brow. "Is that standard procedure?" "I am the HOA president. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them." She emphasized enforce like it was her superpower. "You'll need to remove the animal or face daily fines of $150. Before I could respond, Max casually strolled to the door and sat by my side. His vest, yes, his service dog vest clearly labeled with the words "Medical Alert Animal. Do not pet." But Karen either missed it or ignored it. "Oh, and I'll also be checking your front lawn for height compliance," she added, already scribbling something on her clipboard like she was writing a ticket on my soul. She spun on her heel and strutted off down the walkway, heels clacking like a gavel of doom. I closed the door and looked at Max. "Well, buddy, I think we've just met our villain." Max snorted softly and wandered over to the couch, where he began his sacred daily nap. That afternoon, I received a formal notice on my door. Violation: unauthorized pet on premises. Fine: $150 per day until removal. Please contact the HOA immediately to schedule a compliance hearing. She wasn't playing around. But here's the thing Karen didn't know, and would soon regret learning the hard way: Max isn't just any dog. He's not some backyard barker or purse pup. Max is a certified medical service animal trained to detect sudden blood pressure drops and assist with fainting episodes. He quite literally saved my life more than once. And under federal law, including the Americans with Disabilities Act, service animals are not considered pets and cannot be banned by HOAs. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I gathered my documentation, made some calls to the proper legal channels, and then I waited. Let's just say, Karen's about to learn a few things about barking up the wrong tree. 3 days after receiving the violation notice, I woke up to find a bright orange compliance citation zip-tied to my mailbox like a scarlet letter. In bold red ink, it read, "Final warning. Unauthorized dog must be removed within 24 hours or fines will escalate to $300 per day." I rolled my eyes, poured myself a cup of coffee, and called Max over. He leaned against my leg, sensing my stress. His vest was already on, the bright blue one that read, "Do not separate from handler, service animal." He was a professional. Meanwhile, Karen was playing animal control on a power trip. 10 minutes later, I marched over to the HOA office, which, unsurprisingly, was located in a tiny shed-like structure next to the community pool. Inside, Karen was perched behind a desk like a queen ruling a realm of pettiness. Her laptop was open, and she was typing with the intensity of someone reporting a war crime. "I believe you've made an error," I said calmly, placing Max's full legal documentation on the desk. She barely looked up. "Oh, you again. You're in violation of the HOA's pet policy. It's non-negotiable. Karen, he's not a pet, I said, voice steady. He's a service animal, and under the ADA, HOAs cannot. I've read the ADA, she cut in, waving her hand like she'd read it over breakfast with a croissant. And it doesn't apply here. This is private property governed by association rules. Oh, Karen. I reached into my bag, pulled out the ADA guideline printout I had highlighted and tabbed like a law school student during finals week. Section 12182, I said. Title 3. Service animals must be permitted in all areas where the public is allowed to go. HOAs count. You are in violation of federal law. She blinked. For a second, I thought maybe she'd realize she was out of her depth. But no, Karen doubled down. Well then, we'll just schedule a disciplinary hearing, she huffed. HOA protocol. Great, I smiled. And I'll be bringing my attorney. And a representative from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who I called yesterday. They'd love to sit in. The color drained from her face like someone unplugged her ego. That night, I heard a noise outside soft, shifty footsteps near my front yard. I peeked through the blinds and saw Karen, armed with a measuring tape and a flashlight, measuring my lawn. Max let out a low growl. Oh no, I whispered, reaching for my phone. I flipped on my security camera app. Crystal clear. Night vision mode. Karen crouched in my yard like she was trying out for CSI, lawn crimes. By morning, she'd slipped a second citation under my door. Violation. Grass height exceeds community standard by 1.5 inches. Fine, $50. Max stepped on it and sneezed. Karen clearly thought she could pressure me into leaving or surrendering my rights. But this wasn't my first HOA rodeo, and she definitely wasn't the first tyrant with a clipboard I'd faced. And just to spice things up, I made a little edit to my security camera footage, zoomed in on her snooping, added some timestamps, and sent it along to the HOA board and the legal contact from HUD I'd spoken with. Subject line: harassment and retaliation from HOA president, evidence attached. I even CC'd Karen. That afternoon, I got a very different letter from the HOA. No bright colors, no fines, just this. We'd like to invite you to attend the next HOA board meeting to present your concerns. Looks like Karen's kingdom is starting to crumble. And Max? He's just getting warmed up. The HOA board meeting was held in the community clubhouse, a beige building that smelled faintly of lemon pledge and broken dreams. Folding chairs were lined up in military rows, and a long plastic table up front served as the board's throne of judgment. I walked in with Max by my side, his vest proudly on, his demeanor calm as ever. A few neighbors nodded politely. One elderly woman whispered, "That's the dog Karen's trying to ban?" He's better behaved than my husband. Karen sat at the head of the board's table, fuming in pastel pink. Her pearls looked like they were choking her slowly. Her clipboard was clutched like a weapon of mass irritation. I took a seat near the front, Max sitting quietly beside me, tail gently thumping the floor. He knew this wasn't his fight, but he was ready if I needed him. The meeting kicked off with dull items, sprinkler timers, pool keycards, some debate over whether garden gnomes should be banned. Then Karen cleared her throat with the force of someone trying to launch a power move. Next item on the agenda, pet violations. Specifically, the unauthorized large breed dog residing at 224 Hawthorne Lane. I raised my hand. Max is a service animal. Karen didn't blink. Yes, and you've made that claim. However, our bylaws prohibit dogs over 25 pounds, and we've received multiple complaints about barking, grass destruction, and... Objection, I interrupted. First of all, there's video evidence showing you trespassing and harassing me at my home at night. Secondly, I lifted a folder, certified documents, notarized statements from my physician, and a signed affidavit confirming Max's status as a federally protected medical alert service animal. Gasps and murmurs. One board member, Janet the treasurer, I think leaned forward, squinting at Karen. Did you say there were multiple complaints? Karen blinked. Yes, I've personally received them. I smiled. So no written reports? No names. Karen's voice was climbing in pitch. Well, I don't need names to enforce the rules. I am the president. Another board member, Luis, coughed. Actually, we kinda do. Procedure. And, I added casually, I filed a formal complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development regarding discrimination under the ADA. I've also submitted a harassment claim against the HOA president complete with video evidence. Janet looked over at Karen slowly. Karen, did you go on to her property? She was non-compliant. Karen snapped. I was enforcing the rules. No, I said, standing slowly. You were abusing your position to target a disabled resident. Luis muttered, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's when the real kicker happened. The door to the clubhouse opened, and in walked a sharply dressed woman holding a leather portfolio. Sorry I'm late, she said calmly, walking to the front. I'm Emily Crawford, civil rights investigator for HUD. I'm here to observe tonight's meeting and collect evidence for our open file. Karen went white as printer paper. Please, Emily gestured to me, continue your statement. I almost felt bad for Karen. Almost. By the time I finished presenting Max's documentation, video evidence, and a timeline of every interaction, the room was silent except for the rhythmic thump of Max's tail. Emily stood. Based on what I've heard and seen, I'll be submitting my preliminary findings to my supervisor. But I will say this, targeting a person with a disability due to their service animal is not only unethical, it's illegal. Karen didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just stared at her clipboard like it betrayed her. The board quickly moved to suspend any fines against me and table any future actions until the HUD investigation concluded. As I left, a few neighbors clapped. One even gave Max a little salute. Karen sat motionless as I walked past. I paused and leaned down. You could have just asked what kind of dog he was. Instead, you made it personal. Max looked at her, let out a soft woof, and we walked out into the night. After the board meeting meltdown, Karen went quiet. Too quiet. And anyone who's ever dealt with an HOA dictator knows that silence is just the sound of petty schemes being loaded like ammo. Sure enough, a few days later, my neighbor Cheryl dropped off a flyer she'd found on her porch. It had a grainy picture of Max, looking like a menace mid-blink, and bold text that read, Beware, aggressive dog in community. Resident at 224, Hawthorne Lane refuses to remove dangerous, unapproved animal. Several anonymous complaints have been submitted. For the safety of your children and pets, keep your distance. Your HOA president, Karen Whitmore. Max blinked at the flyer, looked up at me, then promptly went back to chewing his carrot stick. Clearly, a real terror. She's gone full propaganda mode, I muttered. Over the next 48 hours, more of these dog threat flyers popped up on light poles, mailboxes, even inside the community bulletin board next to a Girl Scouts cookie sign-up sheet. The neighborhood started buzzing. Some folks avoided eye contact. Others whispered behind curtains. But then came the part Karen didn't plan for. My neighbor Marcus, a retired Army vet, posted a fiery response on the HOA Facebook group. As someone who's trained service dogs for wounded vets, I can confirm Max is legit. He's calm, obedient, and a better citizen than most humans I know. Shame on whoever is spreading this nonsense. That post exploded. Likes, comments, GIFs. Someone even posted a meme of Karen photoshopped into a Jurassic Park scene as the T-Rex chasing service dogs. But Karen wasn't done. The next morning, I woke up to animal control at my door. Hi, ma'am, the officer said, eyeing Max, who sat like a dignified king in his vest. We got a report about a potentially aggressive, unlicensed dog. We just need to confirm his credentials. I didn't say a word. I reached into the drawer, pulled out Max's paperwork like a magician unveiling the final card, and handed it over. The officer flipped through it, blinked twice, and said, "Okay, this is in perfect order. Who reported this again?" I grinned. "You probably already know." He looked around awkwardly. "We get a few of these. False alarms. Usually tied to HOA drama. Mind if I pet him?" Max accepted the head scratch like a diplomat receiving an honor. Later that evening, I decided enough was enough. I made a short video, a calm, clear explanation of Max's role, his training, and the nonsense Karen was pulling. I didn't mention her name, just stuck to facts and kindness. Then I posted it on the community group. By morning, the video had 300 views. By noon, it had 800. Neighbors I'd never spoken to stopped me on walks. "This is Max? He's amazing. My son wants to be Max when he grows up." Karen, meanwhile, tried to defend herself in a wild comment thread. She posted, deleted, reposted. Her final comment read, "I was just doing my duty as HOA president to protect this community." That earned her a solid ratio and about 100 clown emojis. But the cherry on top? That afternoon, I received a letter slid under my door from Janet, the HOA treasurer. "Some of us on the board would like to meet privately. We believe the current leadership has crossed a line." Looks like the board was quietly turning against her. And Karen? Oh, she was just getting started with her biggest move yet. Karen must have realized her flyers and whisper campaigns were backfiring, because the next HOA newsletter dropped like a bombshell. In Comic Sans was this glorious nugget. Emergency HOA meeting, proposed bylaw amendment. Due to multiple resident concerns, the board will vote on a new amendment that prohibits all non-licensed emotional support and service animals not approved directly by the board president. Translation: Karen was trying to play judge, jury, and dog exterminator. The date? Just 3 days away. I sat on my porch, sipping coffee while Max lounged beside me like a lion in retirement, and said, "All right, buddy. Time to unleash our secret weapon." See, while Karen had been running around like a maniac, I've been gathering ammo. Real ammo. First off, I had already consulted an ADA attorney. Not only did she confirm that Karen's proposal was wildly illegal, she grinned when I showed her the flyer. Defamation, discrimination, harassment, it was a legal buffet. Second, remember the HUD investigator from the board meeting? Yeah, she was still watching. Quietly, she'd emailed me last week saying, "Let me know when she escalates. The bigger the violation, the stronger our case." And third, oh yeah, ID found out Karen wasn't even a full-time resident. She'd been illegally serving as HOA president while living primarily at her lake house across town. Which is a violation. Game on. The clubhouse was packed. Word had gotten out. People brought folding chairs from home. Some even brought popcorn. Karen sat front and center, dressed like she was running for dictator, her pearls clenched so tight I thought they might pop off and ricochet around the room. She launched into her speech, using dramatic phrases like community safety, legal loopholes, and the future of our neighborhood. Then came the vote. Luis and Janet looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. As Karen raised her hand and asked for a yes vote, only 2 hands went up. Hers, and some confused guy who thought this was bingo night. Janet stood up. "Actually, before we move forward, there's an announcement." She looked at me, gave a small nod, and stepped aside. I walked to the front, placed a binder on the table, and took a deep breath. "Hi, everyone. I'm sure by now you know me and Max." He gave a calm whack. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight. But since the HOA president has been on a mission to smear, harass, and now rewrite federal law for personal revenge, I thought it was time. I opened the binder and slid over a copy to each board member. This is a formal ADA complaint, a HUD harassment case summary, and a cease and desist letter from my attorney. Gasps. Karen's face turned the color of boiled shrimp. But that's not all. It's also a notarized report showing that Ms. Karen Whitmore has not lived full-time in this neighborhood in over 13 months. According to HOA bylaws, a board member, let alone a president, must be a primary resident. Dead. Silence. Janet raised her eyebrows. Is this true? Karen stood up too fast, knocking her chair over. That is a complete invasion of privacy. You people have no right. Luis interrupted. Actually, we do. It's in the bylaws. Cue stunned stares, whispers, a few gasps, and one guy in the back who muttered, "She's toast." Janet calmly cleared her throat. I motioned to vote on Karen's immediate removal due to violation of residency requirements and misconduct. All hands went up, except Karen's, which were now shaking as she grabbed her clipboard and stormed out. The next day, the board sent out a memo. Karen Whitmore has been officially removed from her position as HOA president. All fines and complaints against the resident at 224 Hawthorne Lane have been rescinded. We apologize for any undue stress caused by recent actions. Max and I, we celebrated with steak. Medium rare for me. Max got his with a side of peanut butter. Sometimes revenge is loud. Sometimes it's legal. But the best revenge is watching your enemy destroy themselves and knowing your dog is cooler than she'll ever be. A few weeks after Karen's dethroning, peace returned to the neighborhood. The flyers disappeared. The passive-aggressive porch glare stopped. Even the squirrels seemed more relaxed. Max became something of a local celebrity. One kid made him a custom goodest boy sash. Another family brought him a pup cup from Starbucks every Saturday like clockwork. I caught a neighbor referring to him as Sir Maximus of Hawthorne, and honestly, he earned it. The new board, led by Janet, launched a Dogs of the Neighborhood calendar fundraiser, with Max on the cover wearing sunglasses. It sold out in 3 days. But what about Karen? Ah, yes. Turns out, when you throw legal tantrums and violate HOA residency rules, you don't just lose your title, you lose your reputation. Word got around. She tried to pull the same routine at her lake house HOA, claiming their lawn gnome decor was a threat to property values. This time, the board president there, an ex-Navy grandma named Dolores, shut her down before she could even finish her speech. Rumor has it Dolores told her, "Sweetheart, if your personality were a dog breed, it'd be a Chihuahua with a megaphone." Karen now lives somewhere outside of any HOA jurisdiction, probably in a cabin where no dogs, ducks, or doorbell sounds are allowed. And Max? Max just celebrated his 7th birthday with a barbecue party in our backyard. The entire neighborhood came. We even had a Karen piñata, strictly for decorative purposes, of course. Life is good. Justice was served. And Max? He still struts around like the king of the cul-de-sac, occasionally stopping to sniff a flower or accept a belly rub. Because in the end, Karen tried to ban my dog, but all she did was unleash the truth. And Max? He's not just a good boy. He's a legend.